Government of India as Head Innovation and Linkages. He is also a mentor of Change for Atal Innovation Mission, Government of India, and Design Innovation Center under Niti Aayog at GTU. He is also a consultant with Wadhwani Foundation NEN, chapter director at a startup grind, and mentor at Founder Institute, Ahmedabad, IT Bombay, Startup India, Business Blaster initiatives of Delhi government, as well as AIC RNTU Bhopal, an alumnus of VNIT Nagpur and EDII Ahmedabad. Professor Ismail has also been a visiting research fellow in strategy and innovation at IIT Delhi. He is also a doctoral research scholar in Australian in art, artisan entrepreneurship at IIT Delhi. For his contribution towards promotion of entrepreneurial spirit, Smile was honored with Most Influential Person of India 2020 award by HUM Foundation. He has also been awarded multiple grants by DST, Government of India, for initiatives related to promotion of entrepreneurship among women and students. Being passionate about evangelizing the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation, he has traveled across the country to train people for various organizations, including the likes of IT Bombay, Yes Bank, Chryso, Tata Motors, IT Kharagpur, Gwalior, Startup Network, VIT Vellore, Lupin, CPET Lucknow, Palwal Chamber of Commerce, IT Goa, Emergent Up Startup Fest, and many others. Professor Ismail is also an accredited entrepreneurship master trainer, a certified design thinking master practitioner, a neurolinguistic programming master practitioner, and a Six Sigma black belt. And for today's session, I will deliver a lecture on Intrapreneurial Leadership and Innovation Management for Academic Leadership. So again, a very warm welcome, you sir.
Thank you so much. And I see the first day I came, there were like 150 participants at one point of time, the 150 or 130. Today, the number has gone down to 72, as expected, right? Because we have been doing a lot of faculty development programs ourselves. And this is the trend, especially when it is a sponsored free faculty development program. People register, join for day one, then day two, day three. By the end of day five, probably 50, 60 out of 200 remain. But at least then let me start by congratulating the people who are still here, because at least you people have continued so far. And I do understand, being a faculty myself, I do understand that we have our own challenges, our own parallel commitments, your classes to take, we have meetings to attend, right? And then we have a lot of things to do which we don't like to, and which we don't want to talk about, but that's a part of the job and that we will do. And side by side we are doing this, right? I mean, typically in the offline program, when we used to go for attending offline FDPs, at least we used to get 5 days of full duty leave. We're out of the campus, and we would be full time focused on attending the FDP, listening to what the speaker is saying, and focus there. Now we don't get that leave. We are registering, and we don't even get 1 day leave. So all our lectures are going on, all our meetings are going on. I'm sure some of you are attending some meetings on your phone right now. I've done that in a lot of FDPs. So I do understand that, and as we dismiss, kind of set up the understanding in the first session that you relate to me, I relate to you, and we're going to continue from there. But before I go ahead, just to ensure that whatever I did in the last session, did I make any difference? So before we go ahead, in the chat box, if any of you who were present in the earlier session, if you can just share one thing that has stuck with you, something that has stuck with you in your mind from the last session, quickly. It could be one word, it could be one sentence. Let's see. Anything anybody remembers, anything anybody was like, no, eureka moment or aha moment or something that you realize, okay, this is one thing, if, from the entire session, right? One thing that I'm going to continue with, I'm going to actually implement. Okay, edutainment, interesting. Nobody else? Okay, mental plane. Oh, interesting. Neurolinguistic try to avoid delay distortion. Okay, cool. I'm just trying to see how many of us are able to recap. No, remember, recall, gather what we're talking about. Otherwise, what happens? 5 days we attend FDP, 6 days we are back to class and we forget everything that we have studied. Okay. Anybody else? Just want to see how many of you are actually active, how many of you just logged in and doing something. So I also have my phone going on over there. I don't know. A couple of things happening over there. Interesting. So yes, be with the students. Interesting thing. So now today's topic, as ma'am was introduced, what we're going to talk about is in two parts. And of course, the first part is going to take majority of the it, and the second part about innovation management. Just a very small part I introduced because that has been a part of my research in the past. Right? And we so the topic I want to introduce today is called as intrapreneurial leadership. Right? And what exactly is entrepreneurship? Some of you might have heard the term, for some of you it might be a new term. And then second, the question that comes to mind is, okay, why talk about entrepreneurial leadership for academics, right? And before I go ahead, I guess I was expecting that somebody would say that from the last session, I remember that, relate, empathize.
Yes, yes, sir. I want to discuss something.
Yes.
It was about you talked about a question that was very nice. That when you close your eyes for 1 minute and try to recollect the sweet fond memories of,
Mhm.
so that was something very nice, and it
Did you try
really.
that? Did you try
No,
that?
no. Yes, yes, of course, sir.
Right? So
Right.
that's a very powerful, actually quick and powerful way. So since you brought it up, let me just speak for it for 5 minutes because I wanted to talk about last in the last session only, but again we could not. So what I shared about that activity is a very very easy, quick, simple, portable, if I may use the word, and
Really.
powerful approach to quickly change your mood. No. So if you remember the slide that I had to talk about, let me just quickly go through. I'm going to share the slide and I still have that presentation also open. And thankfully today both the presentations are working. So yeah, here it is. And so that's the slide I actually couldn't. So we talked about the mental plane things. And then we also talked about a couple of other things over there. So this was the thing we were talking about, right? And if you see here, then no, I mentioned that after you, okay, still not coming in the full screen mode. What's wrong? Anyways, you guys can see the slide, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
the internal representation to the
Yes, sir.
state,
Yes, sir.
and yeah, and the state then leads to your physiology. Now, what is physiology? So see, our behavior in any given moment, your behavior, your students' behavior, your team members' behavior, the way I would react, the way you would react right now, the way you would either learn or teach or receive or deliver something depends on two things. One is the state. Again, same mental plane, physical plane. The internal representation, we have talked about it, how it is formed. And second is your physiology. The physiology is about my body. Right? It's about my posture, the way I'm sitting, the way I know I'm standing, my facial expressions, And this together, my physiology along with my mental internal state of the event that's happening, together they make my state. So state basically is nothing but if in cricket we talk about that this player is out of form. Yeah, I was not in form. Music, they say I'm in my groove when I'm playing it, right? Or simply it's just the mood you are in. So when you say I'm in form, I'm totally. So you are both mentally and physically excited, mentally and physically into it, and both of them affect each other. So in NLP, there's a very very powerful, very simple or powerful saying that mind and body are one system. What it means is that no, the change in any one of them affects the other. And that's the exact simple thing. So if you just sit, close your eyes, start thinking about some very happy memory, you're just thinking, it's your mind that is going into the past, that happy moment. But then it affects your body also. You start smiling, you suddenly, if you notice your posture also, you suddenly in a very positive posture, happy posture, you're thinking like this. And if you start thinking about a sad memory, right? Even though you're thinking in your mind, physically you're not there, right? In the past. This your mind is going to the past, but suddenly you notice your facial expression, your facial muscles, your certain sad, expressions. And probably you also slouching like this, sitting like this in a depressed mode. It works the other way around as well. Very smart theory. It works the other way around as well. And since this has come up now, let me, very interesting point I want to talk about how do you put your students in a good state immediately. So just the way, if I change what I'm thinking, it changes how my body is. If I think happy things, I smile, I feel good, my body start feeling good. And if I think negative, sad things, my body goes into that depressed position and posture, right? So just the same way, I can use my mind to manipulate my body. I can use my body to manipulate how I'm feeling. And that's interesting, isn't that? So what, and that's now I'll give you a very simple example. So if you're feeling sad, now, have you ever noticed somebody who just has been scolded by the HOD or had a quarrel with a spouse or had some argument with a student, is having a bad day, sitting in a very happy posture like no. You always find a person depressed position like this, probably hand on the head. And we have the typical positions we go to when we are sad, right? The question is same way. This the way I asked you to think of something and and then see if you're smiling. Same way now. Another thing. Try something else. Try standing upright, with shoulders straight. Your chest outline, just like the military guys, as if you are in command. You are leading a battalion or something. Now we are very proud of you going to receive a medal from the prime minister of the country, or the president of the country. Upright, put a smile on your face. Smile, right? Start smiling the way you smile when you're very happy. Right? Start jumping or whatever movements you could do. Raise your hands, clap, whatever. Make the physical movements, physical expression, physical behavior should represent something when you do when you're happy, excited. And try saying, I'm so depressed, I'm so sad, my life is so bad. You won't be able to do that. Or try feeling depressed. Put your body in a very happy state, start jumping and dancing and smiling and all those things. And then try to feel sad. You will not be able to. And then do the other thing. Put yourself in a very depressed state. Go back to slouch, just bend like this. Put your hands just in this position and just for 2 minutes. And try to put your mind in a happy position. You will not be able to do that. Because your body also dictates your emotions. Right? That is the reason we say that when you're studying, some of you, if now of course most of you would be in office, you would be sitting on a chair. But when your students are attending the online sessions, and I tell this to my students, if they are laying on a couch, if they're laying on the bed, and if they're listening to you, their learning, their retention, their recall, their understanding is reduced to up to 30-40% only. And the reason is the moment you are in the bed or in the couch and resting like this, that's your body's position of resting. That's your body's position of not taking any mental stress. Just aram wala position. So the moment your body is in that position, it's telling your mind, hey, I am in the rest phase. I don't want anything to go inside. I don't want to think. And then in that phase, if you're bombarding them with heavy technical understanding, heavy concepts, new topics, the mind won't accept it because the mind is in a state of rest. Anything that's even a little bit complex to understand, the mind will just let it bypass. It will not go inside. And that is why it is very important that I normally try. Again, it's difficult, but I try my best in every session to make sure that as many students are seated. Because when you're seated, that too, when you're seated in alert position, now the body is telling your mind, hey, I'm in alert position. You also better become alert. And that's where your mind goes. Try this. Try learning a new concept while you're sitting in a good position, alert, very properly dressed, and a good environment, proper ventilation, all. And then try learning similar topic or the same topic, right? While you are laying on the couch, and you will notice the difference in the recall and the understanding. Because your physiology also affects your mind. And now, if your students are like that, that is one of the reasons, So in online, it is difficult, but in offline, that's what I do. That's why when I go to class, I know I go to class at 11 or 12 and the college starts at 9 in the morning. So there have been 2-3 lectures before me, right? And again, no offense to anybody, not disrespecting, but then again, everybody has their own style. Some people are as we discussed last time, very good with the content and the domain part, but when it comes to presenting, for whatever reasons, they're not as exciting. They cannot be as expressive. So what happens when I go to the class, they're already halfway through either meditation or coma, right? And it won't take any effort from my end to put them into coma. They go on their own. And if I go into that class, that's already halfway through meditation, halfway through what we could call that, मोक्ष की प्राप्ति हम बोलते हैं, तो वो already मोक्ष के रास्ते पे चल चुके 3 घंटे lectures attend करके. And if I go and talk, no matter how good I teach, no matter how expressive I am, no matter how interesting the topic is, It's all going to bypass because the physiology already they are not in that mode. And how do I change the state? They're not in the state of reception. How many of us have seen that? And you go to the class and you're like, what a class. ये लोग पढ़ने के mood में नहीं है. Even if they want to study, even if no, they will not be because उनका mood नहीं है. They're feeling bored, they're feeling tired, they're feeling kind of frustrated. They're feeling lazy. Then they're just like, when will we get lunch break? Now what do I do? Because if I do not change their state, if I do not put them in a good, happy, pleasant state, if I do not put them in the alert state, all my efforts in the class are waste. Most of them. They'll hardly gather 20-30% of it. And so after learning this entire neurolinguistic thing, I have made it a practice. The moment I walk into the class, I give them 5 minutes break. No matter what time of the day I go to the class. Mine might be this. If it's the first lecture, then it's fine. Because first lecture, they'll just come walk from the hostel or their homes or their travel, they have been moving. So first lecture is okay. But if anytime after first lecture, or if it is first lecture after break, then that's okay. Right? But if they have had a lecture before me or a lab before me, the moment I go to the class, I have this very simple rule, 5 minutes break. Simple. And the rule is, when I say 5 minutes break, nobody stays in the classroom. I mean, you break, some of the people will go out, some students will go, they'll go to drink water, some will go to washroom. There are some students who will still be sitting on the benches. They'll just turn to each other, start gossiping, start talking, WhatsApp. And I'm like, no, when I'm giving you break, you cannot be seated in the classroom. Even if you don't want to go to washroom, even if you're not thirsty, no problem. Just go and stand outside the door of the class. Do whatever you want. Just don't disturb the other classes. But nobody stays in those classrooms for 5 minutes. And the reason I do it is because they are already in that sad state of mind, such as bored mind state. I cannot change their mindset very easily. It's difficult. But if I can change their physiology, if I can change their body the way they are, that's going to affect their mindset. Right? So the moment they get up, the moment they have some movement, they have to walk out of the class. And when you push them out of the class, even if they were not thirsty, they will go and have water. Even if they were not feeling like the need to go to washroom before, but since now you already pushed them out of the class, some of them will end up going to the washroom. They'll just go wash their face sometimes. And when they come back, and now what's happened, that is one thing. So there has been some physical activity. So whatever that laziness, the sleepiness, and the dizziness was creeping in, that their body was telling their mind, hey, I'm in a state of rest. Now that is gone. That's one. Second is a change of environment. They've been sitting in the same bench for 3 hours, 2 hours. Now they go outside, move around the corridors. They see some new faces. For the past 2 hours in the class, they have been looking at the same 60 students. Now, when they go outside, they see a next classroom, probably a new teacher teaching there, a couple of students moving here and there, a peon going with a register. They just get to see new places, change of that locality, change of the position, vision, change of the scenario, and their body movement. When they come back, they are again not 100% alert. Of course, no claims on that, but they are in a much better position when they come back after 5 minutes, where compared to the position mentally. Right, in a state of learning, from the perspective of the state of learning that they were before they left the class. Simple thing you can try, right? And it makes such a wonderful difference. And if it works for you, do write me an email and tell me. Right. Second thing, if you cannot do that, so sometimes what happens, there are classes are next to each other, and sometimes you would have HOD taking a class or the director taking the class, and you're kind of afraid these people will go over there, and they'll, of course, they're kids, so they'll make some noise, they'll talk to each other, and it ends up disturbing other classes. So some of you would be like, so if I do that, if I send them outside, they disturb the class, right? And I understand that as well. So in those cases, sometimes what I do is I do something within the class. So I'll ask all of them to stand up. First is I'll just smile. I know in a typical way, sense of what? No good morning for me. And they'll start. And now they know. So I'll just go, and they will just smile and say good morning, sir, good afternoon, sir. And then I'm like, what? Sitting good afternoon. And suddenly they will look at each other and they'll stand up. The reason I want them to stand up to wish me good morning is not because I want them to respect me or just force. When they stand up, there's a body movement. Right? And that small tiny movement also contributes to that shift in their mindset. That's number one. Second, if I cannot send them out of the class, I make all of them stand up. And you have bench. One bench, there are 2 kids sitting. Usually on one bench, there are 2 kids sitting. And we have 4 rows. So like 8 columns or 6 columns of students. And I would just point it. This entire column will move from this corner to that side. And then that column comes to this and this column. So one entire row wise, I make sure that every student goes and sits on some other bench. And I'll make sure that they just don't go and sit to the next bench. At least they have to cross 2 benches between them. So that's the more distance they cover. While they're crossing those benches, they were in all those kind of dizzy and lazy state of mind. But when they have to go from between the benches, their mind has to be alert. They have to figure out their way between that small space. And in that 10 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever laziness was there, that kind of drops down, because now they have to be alert. Otherwise, they will end up hitting the bench here and there, and they would get their feet hurt. And second thing, it also works because usually they sit in pairs. They're like people who know each other very well, good friends, so they'll talk more. If you split it up, suddenly their talking also goes down, because now they're randomly paired with anybody in the class. And while there are chances they might still end up being with some other friend, but half of them won't, at least. So a couple of things, random things I do, but I make sure that in the first 5 minutes there is some physical activity happening. If nothing else, someday I'll walk in and say, you know what, I am feeling very loud. I'm down. I'm feeling very lazy. And if you guys want me to perform my best, I want you to cheer me up. And they're like, what do we do? And just, if there's no class going around, I'll make it sure, at least next 2 classes, there's nothing happening. I'll say, you cheer me up. And then they will clap. And they say, oh, no, I don't want this. I want a standing ovation. And sometimes, initially, they're like, this guy's crazy. I mean, no, what teacher comes to class and asks for standing ovation? But later, as they understand, see the pattern, they also understand why he's doing it. So I'm like, I want a standing ovation. They'll just stand up, right? And they just start clapping. I'm like, thank you so much, sit down. Now, while you're clapping, that sound of it, whoever is sleepy also wakes up in that sound. The point I'm trying to say is, otherwise, if before you start teaching, and now online I cannot do, and here because it's all faculty members, and in the last session I kind of realized that I'm not going to get a very good response over here, so it's sometimes smart that people are not going to respond. Why unnecessary pride? But when we do, and I think Professor Dolly Shukla has been a part of a faculty development program we did last year. We do it on Zoom. And every session we would make sure that we play music in the beginning. Even it was an FDP, right? In classroom, I cannot do it in the classroom, but online sessions that I do, I either play music, right? I usually make people to stand up, do some kind of a yoga in front of the camera, but here people are not on the camera only, but that is a small yoga thing that you just stand up and do something, stretch your muscles here and there, and then you sit, because then if you are seated like that, if I speak, you are more likely to receive. Does this make sense? Yes or yes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It makes sense.
This is something you can use immediately right from tomorrow, or maybe right from the next lecture that you have today. And see
Sure, sir.
See the difference.
Okay, sure, sir.
Yeah. So let's. That was the point from the last session. That again, thank you so much. I think who reminded me of that about the discussion, and then this point came to my mind. So let me stop sharing this slide over here. And so for today's session, we got another totally different presentation, a different topic, and start sharing that. Yeah. Why is the screen not going on full screen mode?
इसका ना वो दब गया हाथ पे तो इसका हाथ दब गया इस पे देखना क्या हुआ मैं वो 4 दिन का वो कर रही थी हाथ दब गया इस पे
So we started talking about intrapreneurial leadership, right? What do you mean by leadership? Let's say in the chat box, or if you can unmute and just speak. What do you mean by leadership when we say intrapreneurial leadership? What is leadership? Let's do it together. Interesting. Have vision and take the team along. Great, interesting. What else? That's right. How many of us think that teachers, one of the hats that a teacher has to play, have, or one of the roles a teacher has to play is also of a leader, right? And how many of us think that we are good at leading? And it's not only about if you are a HOD, head of the department, or if you're the director, or if you're the registrar, or if you're the vice chancellor, right? Only in that position you have to lead. As a teacher, every day when we are going to the classroom, one of the right, and if you're not doing it properly, again, we're not doing justice to whatever we're doing in the class. We are just, if you're not doing that role properly, you're probably going to the class and we're just acting like a news reader. Unfortunately, somehow that is how the teaching system has evolved. What does a news leader do? Gather news from here and there. All the reporters, they send the news, and that news leader, he or she just has to read it. As simple as that, right? And sometimes we end up doing that. That's the reason on most of the cases the students are not even interested. So leadership, we have defined that it is getting to leadership is simply put to me, leadership in one word is influence. Right? Leadership is when you can influence people without having to use your power and position. And paisa, 3 Ps, without the 3 Ps. Very interesting. Some people think they are leaders and because people are influenced, but people are not influenced because of who they are. People are influenced because of the chair on which they are sitting. So if you are the dean, the head of the department, and people are respecting you for that chair, no big deal. Right? Any random guy can tomorrow sit on that chair and he would be respected. Because of that respect will not be for the person, it will be for the chair. Right? So true leadership is the influence that you have on people without regards to your power, position, or paisa. That even if you are not in power, if you are not in position, still people respect you. And if you don't have if you have a lot of money, again to throw out, not in the academic context, but in general in society, if you have a lot of money, kind of people listen to you. They tend to be influenced by you, right? But without these three things, if you could lead people, true leadership skills, right? So, and what we do with my intrapreneur leader then? So, intrapreneur, the word intrapreneur comes from the word entrepreneur. Entrepreneur, we all know, so I'm not going to talk about it. Intrapreneurs are people, entrepreneurs working within our organizations. So they don't run their own businesses, they work for somebody else, just like we all are. We don't own our colleges, we are working for somebody else's college. But an intrapreneurial faculty or intrapreneurial manager or intrapreneurial team leader would be somebody who would work within the organization, but he will work in a way as if it is his or her organization. And again, the person has to facilitate that. The way I work here at Symbiosis, got a lot of liberty. I'm taking this talk, no permission required. I've not sought any permission from the head of the department or director that I have been invited. Should I go? I have that liberty. As long as it's not clashing with my lectures, as long as I'm making all the other commitments, that's fine. And then we run entrepreneurship cells in the colleges. And normally the faculty who run the entrepreneurship cell has to be intrapreneurial. In fact, every faculty has to. There's no other choice. And let's talk about it quickly. Right. So the reason I shared this is, this slide. One is from the Ministry of Electronics, where I did a session. They shared it. But that's a different. This slide I just copy pasted for that one image on the newspaper image. So I was October 2018. IIT Kharagpur did an event in Nagpur, and I was one of the invited speakers along with some vice president from Reliance and somebody from Flipkart. And so there were 6 speakers, and I was there. And before the event, they had this press conference. So the event started at 2 to around 12. We were sitting in the room, and it was in Nagpur. So we had like 10-15 media representatives. There, some local news channels, and all the reputed newspapers, Hindi, Marathi, English, were there. And there was this guy who was representing, I think, the Hitauda or Indian Express, I don't know, but very popular in English. It's a national paper, but very popular in Nagpur region, English paper. And of course, they were looking for bites from every speaker who were there, and also looking for headlines. So this guy was going to everybody, talking to and said, I'm looking for a headline for the news piece that I give. Can you give me a quote? And of course, he came into a couple of other people. Then he came to me. He said, I want to talk to you about entrepreneurship. What is your view and all? And then so I just spoke about entrepreneurship, how it is important. Even in the news article, if you see, I talked about that only, that how within corporates entrepreneurs are required. It's not just about starting a business, but it's about a mindset, it's about a behavior. And this, if you had to give me one quote, what would that be? And I just ended up saying that I was not aware he was looking for a headline. He said, if just the entire event, if I had to sum it up, one line, I would say entrepreneurship is mindset. And that dude actually, out of all the discussion he had, all the speakers he had talked with and collected those bites, this is what he put as the headline. Because that is something he found new, that this is, and he was so excited. He was like, he was a business reporter. So for the first time I'm hearing somebody say this, like in a public conference like this. And that's the ideology we follow here. I've been following, and at the incubation center we follow. It's not about entrepreneurship. It is more about mindset than what we actually do. So if you actually go and apply that mindset to your own business, right? Of course, you become an entrepreneur. But if you use that same mindset and work with that mindset of an entrepreneur within an existing organization for somebody else, you end up becoming an entrepreneur. Somebody's mic is unmuted. Can we just take care of that? And let's talk about why are we talking about this, right? So why should you listen to me or the organizers of this FDP, right? That why entrepreneur? Why do we talk about entrepreneurship and that too in academic leader? I mean, okay, it's a new word, sounds good, cool, hot word in market may, and everything. But why should we be bothered, right? And that's the question. And I think as faculty members, we should always have that question in our mind when we are learning something and also when we are teaching something. So let's talk about the why part of it. In India, anything related to management, anything related to business, leadership, right? We not only in India, actually throughout the world, but we have this tendency that if somebody who we look up to, if they say something, it's the final call. There's no discussion, full stop, period. I mean, in India, when it comes to management, education, and things about management, IIMs are the kind of the authority, right? If an IIM says something, that's it. And that's why I put a screenshot over here that even IIM, and one of the best IIM Ahmedabad, they do 3 to 4 days executive training program. Now, this executive training program for 3 days, 4 days, they charge somewhere between 1 to 2 lakh rupees. If you go to the website, minimum is 1 lakh, 1.2 lakh rupees. And this is not for students or freshers. This is for corporate executives who at least have 5 to 10 years of executive managerial experience in companies. And even for this program, you cannot just pay money and get in there. There's a selection process for that 3 days workshop as well, right? So now they are also talking about intrapreneurial leadership. And again, this is not for startups. They are not doing this for entrepreneurs. They're doing it for corporate employees, corporate managers, and teaching them entrepreneurial leadership, right? So if they are doing it, I mean, I don't know, do we need any more justification? But still, here's something that's, again, IIMs are in India, right? And in the world, when you talk about management, the only first name that comes to your name is Harvard Business School. And they have this HBR, Harvard Business Review. And this is article from Harvard Business Review 2015 that says the C-suite needs a chief entrepreneur. Now, C-suite here is talking about established corporates and companies, right? Where you already have a chief executive officer, you have a chief operating officer, you have a CTO, you have a CFO, and whatnot. And what this article says that along with all these CEOs and CFOs and CTOs, we also need one chief entrepreneur at the helm of all these established corporates if they want to thrive. And that's a 2015 article. We are already 7 years too late on the train. If we still don't get on that bus or train, right? So I think after these two, kind of validations, we don't need any further discussion. Why is it important to talk about this topic? Then again, let's talk quickly again. What is intrapreneurial? So again, the guy referred to Pincher, who was one of the earliest people to promote the concept of intrapreneurship. He said intrapreneurs are the dreamers those who take hands-on responsibility for creating innovation of any kind within an organization. They don't start their own businesses, right? Now, how many of us here think that as faculty in this 2022, in a competitive landscape where a lot of faculty members are also losing jobs, and again, a lot of places it's difficult to even get the UGC approved salary and things like that. How many of you think or feel that if we want to progress at a pace that we desire and we deserve, it's no more enough to be just a very pure researcher faculty, just to be pure faculty who gets funding and research and papers, but it also is equally important that we become an intrapreneur faculty. In the chat box, let me know, because if majority of the people don't believe it, I think we can conclude the session here and we can just do some chit chat on some random stuff. Let me see. Somebody's saying yes, but I don't know if this is from now or earlier. Okay. Professor Satish is saying yes. Okay. How about everybody else? Because if you're sleeping right now, I wonder how are you going to become entrepreneurial? Okay, cool. So some responses, finally people are waking up. Cool. How many of you want to have some interesting story? I'm very, I don't know if you guys are noticed their stories. Even in my class, a lot of my teaching happens through stories. And if you guys even remember my first session, I started that also with a story about how I was as a teacher in the early days and how my HOD called me and how he counseled me. And in that session was all stories. Even today I started with a story, right? And I think already a couple of stories I shared. But how many of you were down? But those were my personal stories. This is a standard, a typical story I want to talk about, right? And that's another thing we'll talk about, that if you want to make your classes interesting, stories are something that connect with students. And how often we do talk, we go to the class and we say, this is Newton's formula. Do we ever share even a single story from Newton's life to make that thing interesting for the kids? No. Everybody remembers that Newton ka apple fell, no, and Newton discovered gravity because that was told in the form of a story, right? But does anybody remember about the other laws of Newton? Right? There are only two laws you usually remember, right? Force equal to mass into acceleration, because acceleration, apple gira tha, and second is a law. What was the third law? I think, right? Law of reaction. The law of reaction we remember because people keep talking about every action. तो कहीं भी political हो जाए, business हो जाए, social could be issue हो जाए, people bring Newton. So that's what people remember. But there are two more laws that Newton gave us, and we really talk about it because they're not connected to stories. They're not connected to anecdotes. There's no emotional attachment to them, right? So there was this. There used to be this businessman back in the 18th century in Turkey. Right? And back then there were no mobile, no aeroplanes, no trains, no buses. They used to travel on camels and horses and elephants. And he used to trade between countries. So he would pick up some local items from Turkey, whatever they were good at, bring it to different countries and sell it over there. And then on the way back, they would pick up the local items from that country, take it back to Turkey and sell it there. And that's how they used to make money. So this guy used to trade with India. And Africa and all. So on one of his visits, and of course when they used to go, they so it would take them a month or 2 or 3 to reach the destination. They would stay there for a few months, not just a couple of days. Right? Their business trip were not like ours. Morning flight liya gaya, Delhi kaam kiya, sham mein return. They would stay there for a month too, because it would take time to sell those products and collect the products in there. And in the process, they would end up making friends also there. So this guy made a very nice friend in the African continent. And in one of his visits when he was there, one of his African business friends who was very old and probably in the last stage of his life said, maybe you'll come back after a year or 2 or 3. I don't know when you'll come back. And I may not be alive by then. So I want to give you a small gift. And he gives that Turkish businessman a very rare, unique kind of a parrot, the one you see on the screen. It's not a green parrot with a red beak. It's totally different species of parrot. And they were unique and local to that region in the jungle. There were lots of them. And the unique qualities about the parrot was that he could not just parrots do imitate, right? They do mimicry, we know, but this parrot could sing. This parrot could make funny voices. This parrot could make funny poses, and he could also dance. And he was so proud of all this thing. I'm the best dancing parrot. I'm the best things and all those things. And this businessman was so happy, Turkish guy, to receive this parrot as a gift. And then he brings him back to Turkey, his house, and he falls in love with this parrot. Actually, likes him so much, and he wants to keep it with lot of value as a VIP. So he builds a silver cage for the parrot, and the parrot is treated with given such a VIP treatment. The best of the best food and water, everything is provided. Everybody in the family takes care of the parrot very nicely, as if it was a family member. But then one thing also starts happening. Every time a new friend is coming to the businessman's house or a family member or relative, just like we do with kids, beta uncle ko dance karke dikhao, beta uncle ko ABCD sunao. So this guy would start doing that with the parrot. They would make the parrot dance and sing for every guest that was coming to the house. And then in fact he started inviting guests specially to show off the parrot. They would invite those guests, and after dinner, then the parrot would dance and sing, and all those things would happen. And people would clap. People would appreciate, what an amazing dancer, what an amazing parrot. He could he makes funny poses and noises and all those things. And the parrot started getting so much ego initially. I'm such a good dancer. मेरे पास तो Harvard की dance PhD है. I got 10 research papers in mimicry, and I got 2 patents. Again, not pointing out anybody, but that's how things happen, right? But then what happened over a period of time? The parrot started getting frustrated with his life. Because he was used to stay in the jungles, he was built for the jungles, and he spent so much of his life for that. But suddenly started realizing that his life was restricted to that cage. He had the best of the best food. He had so much of appreciation, right? Appraisal mein har baar best ranking mil raha hai, getting special monetary incentives for research papers and things like that. But after a few years, this is not the life I was built for. I'm kind of trapped in this, and he wanted somehow either to get out of it, to have free breath. Now, before I go ahead with the story, how many of us can see ourselves in that parrot right now? Let's see in the chat box quickly. How many of you can see in the chat box? If you can see, just type parrot. Right? Everything is there. I'm happy people are appreciating me. I'm good research. I'm good. But somehow, I want to do more. I want to break this, but I'm unable to. Right? And same happened with the parrot, and he started getting frustrated, but he could not do anything. So he continued what he was doing, just like we continue publishing one paper a year, we continue doing that, all that NB and NAC and using all the stuff because there's no other option. Finally. So we're like, I'm trapped, we have to do it. Then after a few months, one fine day, the businessman decides to go back to Africa, another business tour after a year or so. And then he goes to every family member and says, no, I'm going to Africa. And again, do you want me to bring any gifts for you from there? Everybody gives them him a list. And he comes to the parrot also because he loves the parrot. He says, hey, my dear parrot, do you want me to bring a gift for you? And the parrot says, well, I don't want a materialistic gift, but if you must, if you want to do something for me, I just have a message for, if you go to Africa, you might meet my friends or my cousins because my tribe belongs there. And if you come across one of my cousins or my friends, a similar parrot, this is just a message I want you to give to that tribe member of mine. And he says, okay. And this parrot tells something in his parrot language, right? Parrot code. So this guy does not understand it. He just writes it down, mugs it up without understanding what it actually means. Goes to Africa, stays for a few months, and then again, good business journey again. When he's coming back, on the way back, suddenly when he's traveling, he sees a lot of similar parrots in the jungle on trees, and he's like, suddenly he remembers, my parrot had asked me to give a message to his fellow parrots of the same tribe. And so he goes to a tree, and there's a parrot sitting on the lower branch, and he says, he talks to him and tries to tell him that, I got one of your cousins or friend back in Turkey, and he has a message for you, and he told me to give you a message. And the parrot says, okay, go ahead. And then he takes out the chit and just reads it the way it was without understanding it. As soon as he reads it, the parrot falls dead on the tree branch and on the ground. Now this businessman, the guy is so tense, worried, what just happened? I mean, this parrot just died. What will I go and tell to my parrot at home that, instead of sharing his news, one of his relatives or friends, whoever it was, just died in front of my eyes. But again, he had no other option, so he left and went back home, and then you gave the gifts to everybody for whom he had brought those gifts. And then the parrot asked him, okay, what about my gift? Did you talk to my cousin or relatives? And this businessman kind of tries to avoid it because he does not want to tell him that, this happened and one of your tribe members died. But after a few days, the parrot is every day, morning, evening, he's just asking that one question to the businessman. What about, just tell me what happened. What did you convey my message to my cousins, my friends? And finally, he tells him, right? And this, I went and I found this guy, this parrot, and I gave your message to him. And the moment he heard, he died, fell down and died. The moment this parrot hears it, right, he also suddenly collapses and is dead. And now this businessman's grief knows no boundaries. Like, oh my God, what did I do? I killed his cousin over there in Africa, and now by telling this parrot, I ended up killing him also. And he's crying and all those things. But he does not want to get rid of him, so he'll stay here. And then his family members convince him, this parrot was valuable, you valued it because, he was singing, dancing and all those things. Now it is dead, now it's of no use, we need to get rid of it, we cannot keep it here. And so with heavy heart, he decides to bury that parrot. Actually goes to the garden and with the cage and pulls the parrot out, keeps it on the ground, the dead body of the parrot, and starts digging a hole to put that parrot over there. And while he's busy digging the hole, the parrot suddenly gets up, flies, and goes onto a tree bark and starts singing from there happily. And now this dude turns away and I said, but what just happened? And he looks at the parrot and says, but you were just dead, what happened? And I said, no, I wasn't dead, I was just pretending to be dead. And I said, why so what? And then the parrot tells him the entire story. He said, when I give you the message, the coded message was for my cousin that, I'm trapped over here, I feel frustrated, I feel, I lost my freedom. I want to be like you guys, I want to go back to the jungle, I want to enjoy my freedom, but I'm unable to. Please help me out. What do I do? So that was the message actually you carried for my cousin. And when he died, even he did not die. He was also pretending. But by doing that action of pretending to be dead, he gave me a coded signal message that if I had to really get my independence and reach where I want to be, I had to die, at least pretend to die. right? And what I mean is that I had to actually get rid of the very abilities, the very things, all these, my dancing abilities and singing abilities and all, which I was proud of. I had to go beyond that. I had to kind of, be able to pretend to die and think, okay, these things are there, but they are not everything. And only then now I am free, right? Exactly, that's the thing with us, right? Whatever thing, sometimes the thing, our own achievements, our own degrees, our own qualifications, our own past achievements, they kind of keep us trapped. Unless you understand, not to say that they are not valuable, they are not important, that we should go and burn our degrees and we should go and delete all of our online research papers. No, the point here is that these are important, they're required, but the moment we start seeing ourselves as much more than these things, much more than the number of research papers I have published, much more than my PhD, much more than my qualifications, right? That is where we'll actually start to utilize our potential. There was this WhatsApp message that was circulating a couple of months ago, a funny meme wherein a researcher or faculty somewhere dies, and on his tombstone, he's in the grave. On the gravestone, with grave pe patthar laga hota, this way they put the name. So it was his name, and it was written faculty and researcher, and there was a QR code. It was written to read my research papers, please scan this QR code. Right? So that's the height we have somehow reached. So interesting, we have to identify. Thank you so much, Satish, Professor Satish saying that I'll get rid of. So sometimes the things that we think are our strength are helping us actually keep us trapped. Right? And that's the reason a lot of time we see, कई बार बोलते भी, a PhD in business management, a PhD in entrepreneurship may not be able to get rid of CI and do something, but somebody who's 10th class failed, 12th class failed, that guy goes out there and does wonders. Right? Because he's not trapped into all those things. And that's what intrapreneurial leadership or entrepreneurial leadership is all about. So if we want to really progress, go ahead and forget about, I'm not saying that we have to resign from our jobs and go and start doing something else. Whatever we are doing, even if you want to progress to the next level, right? If we want to embrace that entrepreneurial quality, the first thing we need to do is get rid of what we have been, all this is how I've done things, this is how I was taught in my PhD, this is how my teachers have taught me, this is how the system expects me to be, right? And just a rebellious idea that I normally share. You don't always reach to a level where always by being that patthar ki lakir jo bolte hain, card in stone, following the system all the time. So I have my simple rule. I put my Instagram also, right? That follow the law. So law is something that's patthar. Law is law. You have to follow that, right? Law or regulation, you will say, follow the law. No compromise in that. Bend the rules. Because rules are just set by people like you and me, right? So wherever you can bend them for the benefit of for your career growth, for the benefit of your student, for the larger good. Sometimes you have rules. Okay, probably sometimes that you cannot stay in the college to teach students after 6 p.m. But if I find a student who needs my help after 6 p.m., I'm going to bend that rule. I'm not going to say no 6 p.m. because I'm not allowed. So no, we will not. I will not be able to do that, right? So rules sometimes and so follow the law, bend the rules, and break the protocols. Protocols are things that are just set up here, like people, stereotypes. Faculty members are not, teachers are not supposed to be friends with students on social media. You are a teacher, you are not supposed to be wearing t-shirt to the college. You are not supposed to be wearing jeans. You are not. Why? Right? So protocols, according to me, are something that wherever I get a chance, I'm on a mission. Jab mauka mila protocol todo. So, and again, sometimes you have to follow them. But unless you are into political office or government office, वहाँ पे उनके अपने protocols होते हैं, that's a different thing. But otherwise, we have created those protocols for ourselves. Good. So with that, let's move on to the intrapreneurial thinking process. Right. So what is at the core of intrapreneurial thinking process? And this is something we all know. We all keep talking about this to our students. So I'm not going to focus more on this particular slide, but just to give you a brief idea. That the intrapreneurial thinking process, somebody who works as an intrapreneur in whatever organization you are in, right? Or when faced with a problem, always looks at how do I convert this problem into an opportunity. Simple. Right? So any challenge that you're faced with, how do I convert this into an opportunity? And there are people who have done that. So I normally talk about, when I talk about entrepreneurship, this is not a session on that, so I don't want to go. But just to give an example, to just put things into context and help you understand where I'm coming from. So, if you know, I just to help you understand, unicorn in the startup world, there's this word called unicorn. You read the newspaper, right? I mean, recently, there's this company from Pune, which is 10 kilometers from where I'm sitting, actually, in the city, called Elastic Run or something. And they recently got some funding, and they are the latest entry to the unicorn club, they say. The unicorn is a startup that has a valuation of $1 billion. Not $1 billion in their cash account, but their valuation is $1 billion. That's the unicorn. And in India till 2017-18, every year there was on average one unicorn coming up. 2019 we had 9 unicorns coming up, but still 2019 that we are in single digits. 2020 was the first year, right, when the number of unicorns crossed, they got into double digits. We had like I think 12 or 10 or 12 unicorns, right? So far in India, India has 84 or 85. I think अब ये वाला मिला के 85 हो गया. This is the data from Government of India's Startup India website, so not any random blog. We are 85 unicorns in India, right? Out of those 85 unicorns, you know how many were built in 2021? 44. Almost 50%. And if you add the number from 2020, so again that's 12 or 12. So out of 85, almost 55 to 60 unicorns came up in the year 2020 and 2021 in the middle of pandemic, where everyone was seeing only problems, when we were frustrated, posting memes about Dalgona coffee and talking about Monisha and being too middle class, right? While we were busy making cakes and cupcakes and things like that, there were people building billion-dollar businesses, converting that very pandemic into an opportunity. That's what we're talking about when we talk about entrepreneurial thought process. There are teachers I know, right, who actually use that extra time and started doing their own part-time training programs, or started doing some part-time house business, because we were working from home for 8 months, 9 months. So in the day, I just take 2 lectures. What am I doing the rest of the time? Probably, of course, doing some documentation and all. But compared to going 9 to 5 to the office, traveling 1 hour in the morning, traveling 1 hour in the evening, right? So much time was available, right? And everything was going online. So I know teachers, I know some of my colleagues who PhD in physics, right? PhD in physics, postdoctorate in physics from one of the top, from IIT, PhD from IIT Kanpur, if I'm not wrong, postdoctorate from one of the best institutes, amazing salary, guiding 4 PhD scholars, has government grants, and she's also selling ladies' clothes side by side on WhatsApp, online. Not that she needs the money, right? Just because she's like, I have got time, why not? So that's the thought process we're talking about. And the very first thing about being entrepreneurial, being intrapreneurial, breaking that cage like the parrot, coming out like the parrot, is you start seeing the problems as opportunities. Right? The next one. So that was just a broad level, but let me break it down into smaller steps smaller manageable steps for you. So what makes an entrepreneurial leader? What makes somebody intrapreneurial or entrepreneurial, right? So there are 6 aspects. And again, there are multiple, but these are 6 broad that we have identified and we talk about it. One is you have to be curious and observant. If you are not curious are not just about you think. If you're not curious how things are going in my organization, you might be head of the department, you might be a principal, dean, or you might be just a simple teacher, assistant professor, or lecturer. But what's happening with your students? What kind of trend is happening? What kind of memes they are sharing? What kind of a language they catch up to? We talked about it yesterday also, right? I'm empathizing with the student, connecting with them. I give you example about that guy and all, right? That's being curious and observant. Are we actually observing our students? Right? What's trending? I sometimes when I do rarely, because again I've grown up a little bit. But when I was 24, 25, I would actually see a couple of students, see a trend happening in that this is one kind of t-shirt that a lot of students are wearing on the campus. I would go and buy that online and start wearing that in the campus. Just because I wanted them to feel, okay, this guy is like us. Right? But it's not only just to copy them or follow the trend. You don't always have to follow whatever they're doing. But curious and observant about everything that's happening within my organization and outside. Right? What are the other people doing out? This is the entire pandemic thing. Online teaching, learning. How many of us are curious about learning? Okay, well, how is my colleague dealing with this issue? How are other teachers dealing about it? Are we observing? And not only within academic fraternity. Okay, this pandemic has hit everybody else. So how if I'm struggling to keep my students engaged in my classroom, how is the training industry working? There's so many trainers who train people, right, on different topics. There's so many coaches. Right? There are so many, SCAD and GRE and GMAT training institutes. And then how are people engaging their team members and clients and employees in meetings? Can I learn something from there and implement in my classroom, right? Second, an entrepreneurial person is a moderate risk taker. They always say, right, no gain, no pain, no risk, no gain. Sorry, right? The same way, are we taking enough risk? And again, when you talk about moderate risk taker, it's very important. Normally people have this misconception that I have to be very high risk taker. No. High risk taking is gambling. So you go to a casino and you put your bet. Yes, sir. कब जा रहे हो? This is till 4:45. हाँ 4:45. तो 4:40 तक आएगा तो उसके बाद. Sorry. So where was I? Yeah. Risk taker. So high risk taking is you go to a casino, you put all your money on a number in that roulette wheel, and whatever number comes, you got no control on that. That's high risk. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about moderate risk taking. I normally like to give this example. When students come to me and say, sir, we talk about entrepreneurs as risk takers, and then when I come up with this idea, you tell me, no, this is too risky. I'm like, yes, but आप ही तो class में बोलते हो ना risk लो. So I'm like, yes, but I also say that take moderate risk. And then I have to explain them. In our childhood, some of you might have gone through that way, what do you call it? When this fun phase used to come, the local phase, the local mela is bolte, right? Yeah. And you had this, I don't remember what you call it. That guy, we used to call it Maut Ki Chalan. I don't know what they call it in English, but there's a very huge tower kind of a structure, and below there they create artificial lake kind of a pond kind of a structure, and the guy climbs up through stairs, puts fire on his entire body, right? And then when he's lit up the entire fire, he jumps from that, it's at least 2 floors high, he jumps into that water pond, right? Have you seen that? At least in movies somewhere, if not in reality. I remember I was seeing that a lot of times, right? Now, if let's say it's Valentine week happening right now, everybody's trying to impress their partner and all, especially the young kids. So if there's a young guy is now having a crush on a girl and wants to impress her, and he finds out that in his town that same fun fair has come up and they are having this show, but this show usually happens in the evening, right? After 6-7 p.m. they do those shows. Daytime they are resting because their business time is in the night. So they sleep, they wake up late in the morning. So one fine morning, 7 a.m., this guy puts asks the girls to follow. Come with him and drives her on the back of his bike to that place. Everybody is, all the fair guys, they are sleeping, nobody notices, and this is just to impress her. He says, you wait here, I'm going to do something excited. And he goes over there, climbs to the top of the tower, right, and takes out his lighter and has some diesel, some kerosene, some oil, puts on his body, lights up his body on fire, and then he jumps into that pot of water. Now what are the odds of him landing there safely, not dying and not even having any injury, any serious injury? Is it too risky is it risky or not for him? Yes or no? Nothing in the chat box? Right? So now if I ask you, obviously most of you say, that, and the students say, that's the risky, that's the crazy stuff, that's pagalpan. I mean, who goes and jumps over like that? But then if I ask you, that showman, the guy who does that show really, he does it every day. 3 shows in a day. Why doesn't he get hit? This guy would probably hit his head somewhere, maybe die, or may end up having a fatal injury or very serious injury. But the guy who does the show, he does exactly the same thing. Usko we don't tell कि ये risky hai. Of course, there's a risk for it, but still, the difference is the guy who jumps daily, does the show, he doesn't just climb up and do everything. He has studied it. He knows exactly which part of my body should I start lighting the fire first. He knows exactly what clothes, what material clothes he has to wear so that the heat transmission to his body is minimum. He knows exactly what amount of oil and what kerosene and what part of body to pour so that the flow of fire is properly controlled. It doesn't reach very sensitive places very fast. Right? He knows exactly how many seconds after putting his body on fire he has to jump. Right? A few seconds earlier and it won't give that effect. He would not be totally on fire. People would enjoy. Few seconds too late and he would get burned. He knows exactly when he has to jump from the tower. There's a space, right? So he knows exactly at what speed, at what force, what's the body force he has to push. He has to jump. He knows exactly at what angle he needs to jump. He knows exactly that when he's jumping, what part of the pond is he targeting and jumping there. Because he exactly knows which pond ka border kitna hai, where there's a hard surface that can hit him, where the water is properly depth, where he should jump. And he knows exactly when to take his breath in before jumping. Right? While this dude, just in the process of impressing the girl, just goes up there and jumps randomly. Of course, it's too risky. Same situation, too risky for that guy, but moderate. Again, the guy who's doing the show, it's not totally safe for him either. We cannot say. Sometimes they also get injured. Some of them also die. But for him, the risk is moderate. Why? Because he has mitigated the risk. He has controlled the risk, right? He has reduced the risk by understanding, by his knowledge of the entire process, right? And to some extent, he controls the thing. He doesn't leave it to fate. It's just, I will go and just jump randomly. No. That's exactly the quality of an entrepreneur. They take risk, but they take risk only where they feel they have certain degree of control. Right? They would learn about that thing total. They will understand it, figure it out, and see, if I don't have this capability, I'll bring in this capability, I'll learn that. I'll make myself an expert in that, and then I will venture there. Not just randomly go out there. Right? Third quality of an entrepreneurial leader is ready to experiment. How many of us are? We don't even experiment with a PowerPoint. 5 साल तक same PPT चलता है हमारा. Again, sorry to say that, right? I've done that in the past, right? But sometimes our questions, our question banks, our assignments don't change for years. Forget that, we don't change our subjects for that matter. I mean, I have never taught a subject for more than 3 years except one subject of operational research, and other is entrepreneurship, and that was because there was nobody else to teach in the college, so I had to take it and allowed it. Other than that, in the 11 years, one subject taught first time, okay, second time, no, first time because you don't enjoy it. Second time is when you get a grip, third time is when you enjoy the subject, and that's where fourth time not teaching it. So that was my pattern right from the beginning. I'll teach it 3 times. First time, I'm just understanding it myself. Second time, I'm kind of enjoying it. Third time is when I'm kind of a pro at it now. I taught it 2 times. First time, I'm actually theory movement. I'm creating the impact. That's it, done. Next time, I want a new subject. I want to again start the cycle. I've seen people in my campus, 10 years, one subject, not ready to live. Why? Because if I take another subject, I have to prepare right from scratch. And I don't know if I will be able to do that subject so well, if I will be able to deliver it. Right? And then I go to the class and tell the students to take a risk. I can't even take a risk of choosing a new subject. And then I want my students to take a risk, come up with innovative projects, do something good with their life. And I told the other day also, the students don't follow your advice, they follow your actions. Right? We don't even change PPTs, and these kids know. You think they don't know? They have your PPTs from the super seniors also passing down to generations. And they can compare it. They have the question papers and they can compare it. The question paper 4s plus 2y hota, that's 4s plus 2y. We don't even make it 4z plus 2w. That x and y still remains there. We don't even change the x and y to m and n or p or q. Right? So the point is, and that's the routine part. But again, are we ready to experiment? Right? Are we ready to experiment with our teaching style? Try something new. Are we ready to experiment with our own career, our own profession? Let me try a new subject this time. Let me try to teach it in a different way. Let me try to. I have done lectures, engineering graphics. Those who are from engineering background, engineering drawing, I have taught in open air. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see those videos also. I'm not just bluffing. Engineering, you'll see my videos on engineering drawing where they're doing orthographic projections in open amphitheater spread across, sitting over each lab and without a drafter, they do those orthographic projections. Development of solid, if you understand what we done in the first year, you're done, right? No theory lecture, no PPT. I actually put card sheets in front of them. I said, this is the final solid I want. Create the development for this in the card sheet, cut it and fold it and make this shape. Some of those experiments would work, some of them would not work. Sometimes the students would be happy, sometimes they would not be happy. It's fine. A couple of times they have complained about my methods. What this guy did in the class, we did not understand anything. We ended up putting more efforts, more time, and at the end we did not understand. Please ask him to go back to the PPT method. They've gone and complained to the HOD a couple of times. Fine, if you don't understand, I'll go back. I'll pull up my PPT, I'll teach it. But I had to try. How would I know if it doesn't work unless I try it? So there's so many small things, right? I know trying from a new domain. When I started teaching entrepreneurship, it was a risky affair. Nobody from an engineering college wanted to teach entrepreneurship. And because of that risk, I'm sitting here today right now. So a lot of things. In fact, when I went to do my PhD, just simple, this is an example. I applied for PhD at IIT Delhi last year, and I got selected in 3 departments. I was selected in Department of Design, the Department of Center for Rural Development, and Department of Management Studies. And I had to choose. Everybody told me to go for Department of Design because I come from a mechanical engineering background. My master's is in engineering design. They were like, if you do a PhD in design, no, your job prospects are good. In any engineering college, design people are less. It's very good. And of course, I do agree. I'm nothing against that discipline. Actually, I wanted to be. That's why I applied. And some people said, no, you do a lot of entrepreneurship training and all. So do it in management. I did a management PhD. So you'll end up getting into some good MBA school as a faculty, And I was comparing. And then there was this third offer from the Center for Rural Development, where actually I saw something exciting. You have to go into the rural settings, stay in those villages for the PhD, and you have to collect the data. That's how they work. And I said, hey, that's where I want to go. And almost all my colleagues were against it. They're like, are you crazy? At this stage of your career, you now want to go and experiment with the PhD. I mean, you are BTech, MTech, MBA, and now you want to do PhD in rural development. ना engineering college के काम के रहोगे, ना management college के काम के रहोगे. वो बोलते हैं धोबी का कुत्ता ना घर का घाट का. You're doing that to yourself. I said, I don't care. Let's figure out something. And I ended up doing, and I'm currently doing my PhD in rural development. I have yet to identify my topic 1 year into the program. Still not clear on what my PhD topic is going to be, but I'm enjoying it. So, are we doing that? Wherever we can, right? And then, of course, the fourth one is an entrepreneur person gets disturbed with the problems around, right? So when they see problems, they get, and when I say disturbed with the problem around, it's not about complaining. Oh, there's no light in the room, and I don't have a computer, and we don't have enough bandwidth over here, we don't have YouTube access, we don't have MATLAB software, we don't have that IEEE access, and we don't have Scopus. No. When we say disturbed, everybody gets disturbed with the problems. Everybody complains. The person with the entrepreneur mindset, when he gets disturbed, is like, okay, that's the problem. What do I do about it? Right? So a lot of people start complaining when things went online. Students are not turning their cameras on, they're not reacting, we don't know what to do, they are not engaging, right? We discussed in the last session, so that's the problem. Right? I'll show you later if I get time and if I can open it over here. 2020 June, when I was teaching a subject called Six Sigma. So as some of you would understand, it's a management, technical management subject, more about statistics and business management over there. And I'm a Six Sigma black belt, so I kind of like teaching that subject. And I started facing the same thing. Like, these kids are, every class you have to go and shout and convince them and motivate them and sometimes threaten them with attendance that if you don't turn your camera on, I'll not give attendance and things like that. Because I cannot speak if there are not there are at least 8-10 faces on the screen. Right? Not the FDP, so I have to somehow convince myself because I know you guys are not, and I cannot do that with you. But if it's for the student program, even if for some other college, I won't speak unless there are 20 students with the camera on. And then I realized, okay, they started doing that, but they were not responding. They would come on the camera, but they would not participate. And I said, what's the problem? And I was just thinking, I said, and I would realize that they the camera is on, they are on social media, and each phone the social media. So I said, if social media is distracting you from my class, if you understand Hindi, so that was the exact thing I thought. Social media is distracting you from my class को social media पे लेकर आएगा. And I created a Facebook group. They're still there. I created a Facebook group. I sent them a request. I made some of them admins and moderators to make sure that the group is clean and no nonsense is done over there. I made very crystal clear rules for the group. And if you don't follow this group, you'll be kicked out. I added all of them to the group. And that group was our fun place where half of my assignments were posted on that group. Right? And the assignments were all random assignments. So I was talking about Six Sigma. I said, create a news talk show, right, wherein two of you in pair you do the assignment. One becomes the host, the other becomes an expert panelist, and the other person, both of you will go read a case study from the past 10 years where in any company they had applied Six Sigma and they got some monetary benefit. Go into depth of that, become as acquainted with that case study as you can from the internet, whatever company you want. And then one of you is going to pretend to be the expert coming from that company. The other is the host, and 30 minutes talk show. You're going to question him how they applied Six Sigma, why did they choose to apply it, what part of Six Sigma they applied, what were the tools they used, why did they use those tools, and what are the results they got. And that person has to answer as if he's representing that company. And they did such, I mean, they kind of copied Arnab Goswami, somebody copied Ravish Kumar, they brought their, even, Arnab Goswami ka initially Republic ka, the initial intro slides and intro, they cut paste karke, wo paste kiya, somebody brought in Rajnikant over there, I don't know, the kind of creativity this place got over there. Right? And then I gave them another topic, I somehow thought, okay, can we connect this to movies? And I said, okay, pick any movie and come back to the class and give a presentation how if the protagonist, if the lead hero in the movie had applied Six Sigma to his problem solving, what could have been better in the movie? And they came up with amazing ideas. There was one team I still remember, they came up with, and their presentation was titled, How to Get Away with Murder Using Six Sigma. And we had so much of laughter in that. And everybody was live, everybody was talking. The point is, and I was very afraid when I got that assignment, because I was like, what if they end up choosing a vulgar movie? What if they're not choosing a movie that or end up making some comments or playing some clips from the movie that are not suitable to the decorum of academic environment? That was the risk. Okay, fine. करके देखते क्या होगा, होगा तो ban कर देंगे. So what I'm trying to talk about, and then I did it for two times. I would go some of my lectures would happen at 11 p.m. in the night. I would just randomly go live on Facebook Live, and they would see notification. They would not come to a Zoom or Google meeting at 11 in the night, no matter how much you threaten them. But when a notification comes on Facebook Live, they're enjoying it. They're anyways on Facebook or Instagram. Just click over there. We would just discuss. I would pick one night. I picked a good night, and I said, okay, let's discuss how good night could be improved using Six Sigma. And I had no particular answer to this. And in the comment, they kept talking 1 hour. We discussed. That's it. And it's not called a lecture. It's called Six Sigma Facebook Live. That's it. So what I'm talking about here is that see around what could we do? A lot of things, right? And then comes the team support. So an intrapreneurial person is always somebody who always gather team support. This is one thing I think, except for some collaborative research projects, we rarely collaborate. Even for research papers, it's a group of 2-3 people. They are only working on research papers, but rarely is the interdepartmental collaboration that we keep talking about, right? So that's one thing I think, we kind of need to look at. Okay, how are we collaborating, and not just research projects. One very important difference here that I noticed, is that in teaching, we don't have collaboration. I mean, if one person is teaching one subject, either he is teaching it to all the divisions, or even if there are 2 teachers teaching the same subject to 2 different divisions, they're teaching their own different. Only time they sit together is when they have to frame the question paper. And they say, okay, this topic I have taught, this topic I have not taught, so they'll create a question paper so that both the classes can attend. Otherwise, throughout the semester, I don't know whether we even interact. What are you teaching and what am I teaching? What examples are you giving? So that collaboration is totally missing. And problem-solving attitude is very self-explanatory, right? Another important aspect of an intrapreneurial leader is focus on outcome versus tasks. That's very, very easy mistake to make. We usually end up mistaking our tasks for outcome. Unfortunately, to some extent, the systems and the processes are responsible for that. You kind of get promoted, you kind of get recognition or financial incentives if you get in university, or recognition, appreciation, sometimes based on the number of papers. So everybody's running, okay, 10 papers, 12 papers, 13 papers, right? Now what is that? Publishing research paper is not an outcome. It's a task. Outcome would be somebody benefiting from that research. Let's focus on that. We're just piling up new journals coming up. They are making open access journals, charging $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. We're paying the money and we're getting published. They are making money, right? So in the entire process of this research covered, not against that. And some of it is really, really genuine. Good research also happening, and some good contribution to the society is also happening. At least 50% of the cases, that research is not helping anybody in the society, in the community, in the industry. 50% of the cases, that research is helping only the journal owner who charges you such amount of money. Sometimes I feel I should leave the job and everything, and I should start a journal. And somehow get it index and scopus or SCI, life setter. Right? So task versus outcome, very important thing. When we go to the class, going to the lecture and completing my syllabus is the task. It's not the outcome. Outcome is, we talk about outcome-based learning. I don't know how many of us actually understand outcome-based learning, honestly. Right? But outcome is, what's the outcome of my lecture? Unfortunately, you are evaluated also at the end of the semester. You are asked, how many lectures did you conduct? Nobody cares. Did you dance in that class? Did you sing songs, or did you actually teach? So somewhere the lead, and that's why we're talking about academic leadership. So if there are people who are in leadership position, deans and heads of the department, directors, I think somewhere this has to start from that side. And you don't just focus on the statistics and the quantitative. There has to be some qualitative assessment. Do we ever actually evaluate feedback form at the end of the semester? You go to the students, they evaluate the teachers on 10 parameters, again on a scale of 1 to 5. There is no qualitative assessment. So did he come to class on time? Did he take all the lectures? Did he evaluate you fairly? All those things. Nobody asks, did he keep you interested in the class? Did you actually learn something? Did you feel motivated to attend that class? Missing. Right? That's another aspect we need to do. Whatever I'm doing, what's the task that I'm doing, and what is the outcome that is expected? If I'm, simple example, if I am sending an email to someone, if I'm a product guy, as an entrepreneur, let's say I want to sell this tea coaster, or I want to sell this earphone, for example, right? And if let's say I send this email to 10 people, the goal is I will send email to 10 people want to buy this. So now sending the email is not the goal. I just send 10 emails and nobody replies. I cannot say that and say, okay, I had to reply 10 email to 10 people. I sent it, nobody replied, nobody's fine, that's fine. Because the outcome was not to send those emails. That was task. The outcome was to sell this earphone. And if it is not being sold in 10 emails, I would send 10 more. And if not, then I would send 10, I would send 1,000 emails. I would keep sending emails and reminders and phone calls until I sell this one earphone, because that's the outcome. Right? So that's the approach of an entrepreneur, right? Are we cool till now? Anybody's got anything? I just want to take a 2 minutes break. I've been speaking so long. So, anybody has any comments? Anything? I see some chat comments in the chat box. Is it making sense so far? And I know sometimes when I speak, especially when I speak to the faculty fraternity, I sometimes tend to speak some very, very harsh and bitter facts, but there are facts. You may agree with me, you may not agree with me. Some of them are facts. And of course, there are exceptions. So when I say something does not mean that everywhere is happening like that. There are always exceptions. But when I speak, I'm speaking from a majority perspective. That's what usually happens, right? And it happens almost everywhere to a varying extent. In some places, it happens to smaller extent. In some places, it happens to larger extent. These points are there everywhere. Okay, so now let me ask you a question. Now, this is where I want your responses, right? Let's see how many of you listening at you. When people fail to achieve their goals or achieve any target or achieve anything, what reasons do people give? People could be you, people could be your friends, people could be your family members, your colleagues, your students. But usually, when anybody, in general, when we fail to achieve our goals could be anything. It could be losing my weight, it could be gaining weight, it could be taking care of my health, it could be completing my PhD in time, it could be publishing research papers, it could be, being a good teacher in the class, whatever it was. You decided the goals, you yourself decided the goal, but still you did not fulfill it. And what are the reasons you attained? Right? Excuse me, but what are that? Right? To blame the system, blame the luck, okay, what else? Lack of time, lack of resources, interesting, lack of support. Right? So usually if you see, most of the reasons that you will fall in one of these categories, right? Either people will say time. If I had more time, I would have more research. I don't have time to prepare for that. Or I don't have enough money. I did not get enough research grant, right? We do not have the technology, we do not have the contacts, we do not have the experience, or if nothing else works, management did not support. Right? And while in some cases these parameters do make a difference and they're actually real. I'm not saying that this is all excuses, also all is a lie. That these are not, these are there, right? But they're not always as important, as critical a reason as we make them to be, right? And then then if that's not the reason, what is, right? So I just want to play a video, and this because in Google Meet you don't see you can't hear the audio, but thankfully the video has subtitles also, right? Just a small video to focus on the subtitles, and then we'll go to the next slide.
Sir, audio is not playing.
As I said, audio is not going to come because Google Meet sometimes audio does not play, but it has the subtitles, right?
Okay.
Right? So again, a quote from some of you said Tony Robbins is one of the people I follow. I've done a lot of his paid programs. I've spent almost more than 1 lakh rupees on his training program so far. But amazing insights to get. So what he talks about is that there's something called resources versus resourcefulness. And usually the excuse that we use is some or other. Time is a resource, money is a resource, network is a resource, contact is a resource, experience is a resource. I did not succeed because I did not have some other resource. What he says is it's not about resources, is about resourcefulness. And an entrepreneur, somebody with an entrepreneur mind, is always resourceful. But okay, I don't have the resources due to the constraints or my personal constraints, the organization constraint, the college does not provide this, the university does not provide this, fine. There's nothing you can do about it. If you can do something about it, write to somebody, get it done. But sometimes then no, whatever is available, if you have your creativity, if you're determined, if you're curious, if you have the resolve, somewhere or other you figure out ways. Right? And so normally when we talk about to startups and early young students about starting up, and this is, sir, I don't have, I want to have a business, I want to start up, but I don't have experience. And then there are 14-year-old kids starting businesses. You are 35 and you say, I don't have experience. What experience that the 14-year-old kid have? The 18-year-olds making $1 million businesses. And then somebody, I don't have enough contacts. There are people coming out from rural places where internet connection nahi hai, making businesses. What kind of contacts does these kids have? Right? So if experience was the parameter, then how come so many people without any experience, before even completing the degrees, they're building businesses and $1 million? If contact was the criteria, very important, because of contacts and you're not able to make businesses, how come there are people who had no contact with the external world are making businesses? Right? If time was the case, how come there are people who are actually building multiple businesses at a time? So everything, because these people found it a way. So very important. There's one thing I want to take out of this session about being intrapreneurial leaders is rather than being too much obsessed with the resources. Do I have the machine? Do I have the lab? Do I have the computer? Do I have the students like that? Do I have the grant? Can we start being resourceful? I don't have the machine. Okay, I can get those tests done from some other college. I don't have the grant. That's fine. Can I do some other research that doesn't require grant? And can I build it? When I started my entrepreneurial cell, right, in 2014, you know what was the budget allotted to me for the entrepreneurial cell at 2007? Zero. 2015, zero. 2016, allotted budget, zero. But I somehow got 10,000-15,000 rupees from some other club's budget because I was somehow able to convince the director, and it was allotted for some other club, and they transfer some amount from that club to the entrepreneurial cell. You know what my budget was in 2019 and 20 before the lockdown happened? Of course, because of lockdown, now again, there are so many majors. So again, they're cutting the budget. But before the lockdown happened, 1920, the ECL, the entrepreneurship that are in the campus, had a budget of 4 to 4.5 lakh rupees. When I started, every other club used to have a budget of 20-30,000 rupees. All the engineering clubs, technical clubs, because they were valued. Entrepreneurship in engineering college was not valued. They were like, what are you doing about entrepreneurship in engineering college? These people are doing robotics events, so we'll fund them. These people are doing some civil engineering, we'll fund them. These people are doing coding challenges, we'll fund them. What are you doing? Business plan? Sorry, not interested, no funds. They used to have 20-30,000 rupees budget when I used to have zero budget in 2014. And by 2019, my budget for my entrepreneurship cell was 4.5 lakhs. Their budget was still 40-50,000 rupees. What changed? With zero budget, 3 years, we showed more impact than those people were showing with their budget out there. Right? So, and my budget actually, the entrepreneurial budget was more than the combined budget of all the 7 other clubs in the college. So that's what I'm talking about. That somehow it takes time. Right? I'm not saying that it's good. If you can get the resources, fine. I'm not saying that you should also say, okay, 3 years I'll run a ESL without a budget. If the college is willing to give that resource of money, by all means take it. Enjoy. If they're giving 50,000, go back and ask for 1 lakh rupees. I'm not saying that okay, 50 mila to khush ho jao. If you have been getting 50,000, you have all the right to go and ask for 2 lakh rupees. And if you get 1.5, that's fine. Use it. But the point is, if you don't end up getting that, you cannot give it. Don't let that shortage of money be a reason that you're not able to do stuff. Or any other thing, right? So that's another thing about intrapreneurial leadership when we're talking about, right? So that's resource versus resourcefulness, right? This slide I'll come back to later if we get time, because we can take time, and I'm probably we're already at 4:32 and I'm mindful of the time also. Another very important thing. So what are, and quickly I'm going to again this comes from Tony Robbins, by the way, it's his framework. So the 6 human needs he calls them, right? That what are the needs? Because see, when we are interacting with people when they interact with you, they have certain needs. They expect you to fulfill, satisfy those needs somewhere or other, right? So there are 6 needs that Tony Robbins talks about, right? We all have these needs. Some of these needs dominate us. We have all the needs in very proportion, but 1 or 2 needs have in higher proportion, and it differs from person to person. First need is need for certainty, right? This need for safety. That's why we look for a government job. We look for a permanent job, right? That's why we do PhDs and all those things, so that to secure my job. If I'm a PhD from a good place, if not this college, somebody else will offer me a job. Bread and butter will go. My dinner table will never be without bread and butter, right? So we want certainty in some aspects of life. If we are getting into relationship, we want certainty that this will last long. Right? We don't want to be okay, I don't know my wife or husband will leave me in 6 months. So you want to be certain that okay, this is going to be lifelong commitment. lot of places you want to, you take admission for your kids, you want certainty whether my kid will be get placed or not. So you want the college to give you certainty, assurance, guarantee. Right? You buy products with guarantee, written guarantee, right? Because you're looking for certainty. But then also part of us also is looking for uncertainty. Uncertainty is all about guarantee. Right? So in certainty, not all aspects of life we want certainty. When you talk about surprises are all about uncertainty. If I'm certain what surprise I'm going to get, if I know what exactly my family is planning for my birthday party tomorrow, all my fun is gone. But I know they're planning something. I can see, but they're not telling me what they're planning for my birthday party. I'm uncertain, but I'm enjoying it. I'm getting more and more crazy. What are they planning for? And that uncertainty, that surprise, that's what makes me happy, right? Movies. When I go to watch a movie for the first time, I don't know what's happening. I don't know the end of this movie, right? So I have uncertainty. That's why I enjoy it. But once I have watched the movie, you go and watch the movie the second time, you don't enjoy it as much because now you know, you are certain कि क्या होने वाला है, देख चुके हो पहले. Or if somebody is giving you spoiler, right? So when Game of Thrones was running up, a lot of people there was so much things being anticipated about the things, and people who got to watch the Game of Thrones first, they would actually put in the WhatsApp group spoilers. And I know some people who left groups because they did not want those spoilers. They're like, Subha's episode release hota, I want it in the night, and in the day, somebody somewhere in the group puts a spoiler, and accidentally end up seeing that. My entire fun of the episode is gone. I don't want to happen, so I'm going to get out of that all those groups where people are posting spoilers, so that it does not spoil my fun. So some people want, I know, in some cases we all, in some part of life we want certainty, in some part of life we want uncertainty. But some of us look for certainty most of the time. Some of us look for uncertainty most of the time. So entrepreneurs, people with entrepreneurial mindset, they are always looking for uncertainty. There is something new. Let me teach a new subject. Let me try a new thing. Because when you're doing something new for the first time, there is more uncertainty than certainty. When you're doing the same thing, then the if you're teaching the same subject, you are certain exactly at what point in your lecture will the students have a question. You know exactly which part of the subject students find it difficult to understand. The certainty. When you're teaching for the first time, you don't know. You don't even know where you will get stuck in the class. Right? First time when you teach, you have not anticipated suddenly. You think, oh my God, I did not anticipate that I will get stuck at this point while preparing. That's the uncertainty. That's fun. Right? Then there is a need for significance. All of us want to feel significant. People should respect me. People should think me like big guy or a respected guy. Right? They should talk good about me. But they should actually respect me. They should be afraid of me. I have power, right? So that's significance. That's why we all want to become heads of the department. We all want to become deans. In the classroom, we want that significance. Sometimes we just shout at the students. We just shout, try to, because we are trying to gain that significance in the class. We don't even realize that why we are doing it. Right? Because we do it, and we are frustrated because the students are not giving the significance. Sometimes you see a bunch of students, 8-10 students, along with a young teacher, some other faculty, they're respecting him, they're talking to him nicely, and suddenly you're like, oh my God, these people are giving so much of importance to that young dude. I'm 25 years in this college, these kids don't even talk to me. I don't get significance, and then that shows in your behavior with the faculty, who has done nothing wrong to you, sometimes, or with the students, right? Because of significance, happens in personal life as well. And then there's a need for love and connection. We also want to be loved. We want people to connect to us. We want people to like us. We want people to give affection to us, and we want to give affection to others, right? That's why we want friends, families, close family, because we all want our students to like us. But just like certainty and uncertainty and 180 degrees to each other, right? You cannot be both certain and uncertain at the same time. Same time, significance and love connection are opposite to each other. Because in the process of gaining significance, you actually end up pushing people away. When you start showing your power, how many have you seen some of your colleague or somebody in your campus who used to be a faculty suddenly becomes the head of the department, director, deputy director, dean, and suddenly you realize their behavior has changed. Because the moment they sit on the chair, now they're looking for significance. And what happens immediately within a month, whatever connections they had made with those colleagues, they used to go have lunch together, all those things, people start moving away from them. Because they go too much into the significance part of it. Right? So that's what, because when you're talking about love and connection doesn't happen with significance. I cannot love somebody, I cannot make somebody love by making you feel, hey, I am superior to you, you love me. It doesn't happen. In love and connection, I have to be equal. I have to accept we are equals. You have flaws, I have flaws. That is when we love each other. That's what happens in your personal relationship. If a husband or wife thinks that I am superior to my wife or husband, there's never going to be love in that relationship. As long as you think that you are superior in the relationship than the other, or whatever it is, I'm PhD or not, I earn more money than you, that's the thing, You won't have be it friendships, be it colleagues, be it peers, be it student teachers. So if you go to the classroom with that sense of significance, hey, I'm a PhD, I know this thing, you are 18-year-olds, I'm 35-year-old, I know this thing and that thing, they're never going to love you. Trust me, mark my words. They're never going to get that love and connection. So if you really want that love and connection from your students, from your colleagues, right, somehow make sure that you, again, we all need it. And I'm not saying we should not. Control that urge, keep it within limit. And then there are multiple ways of getting significance, by the way. Right? There's a different topic. Someday, if anybody of you from different colleges, you want me to come and talk to your faculty, I'll come and do a 3-hour session on that, on this one slide. Just to give you a quick overview, there are ways people achieve these needs. So somebody gains significance by doing good work. Somebody wants significance, he would go to the class and some kid is struggling, some student is struggling, that teacher would go to the student, help him out. And when he's helping him out, everybody else is looking, he's feeling significant. That is, I am able to help you, so I'm superior because I could help you. That's a positive way, good way, right? Of getting significance. Nothing wrong with that. And the other teacher who goes to the class who wants significance at the power of a stick, at the threat of attendance and marks. Doesn't work for long. Right? So there is a way you could have both significance and love if you manage it properly. Right? Significance doesn't always require you to be sitting in the HOD's or dean's chair. It doesn't always require you to demean your colleagues. Sometimes there are some people who seek significance by growing themselves. And there are other people who seek significance by pulling others down. And I hope we all know some people, people in both the categories around us. And then there's something, the next need is growth and contribution. So we all have this need to grow. Grow in terms of money, grow in terms of my status, grow in terms of my respect, grow in terms of my qualification, grow in terms of my stature in the society, right? We all want that. Your students want that as well. And we all want to contribute to the society in some way. When I say society, need not be social work, but we want to contribute to our family. We want to contribute to our kids, their future, their education. We want to contribute to our spouse, to our parents, right? So when I'm able to do something for my kids, when I'm able to do something, that need is there. That's why we do it. It makes us happy. Now, we all have those needs. Your students also have those needs. If you really want to motivate your team members, if you're a leader, if you're the head of the department, and if you want your faculty to take your department to the next level, look at yourself and see, are you satisfying all this? Are you giving them some certainty? There are leaders I've seen every meeting, if you don't do this, half of you will lose your job. Now, if every meeting you are threatening them, and if you think threatening is going to work, sorry. What you're doing is, there will be people in that meeting who look for certainty, and every time you threaten them with the job security, they are facing uncertainty which they don't like, and before you can ever fire them, they will leave. तुम क्या fire करोगे? Right? And there are people who come, and if you just come and pull certainty on everybody, there are people who enjoy uncertainty. They want to teach different subject, but you teach this subject only because you teach this good 10 years, you will teach the same subject. That guy would get bored, run away. Right? So all these needs, again, just giving a clip. Same happens with the students. So when you're in the class, give them some kind of certainty. Okay, you come to my class, you attend the lecture, so you like, that's what I do. In my early days, I used to go and threaten. I've done that. So I admit, guilty as charged. The first lecture, I thought, if I threaten them, if I scare them, how many of us do that? Iman Bari said, put a hand on your heart and answer yourself, don't tell me. But how many of us in the first lecture think that if I go and tell, this subject is so difficult, the result is so poor, last year back asked, this is a very hard subject, you have to put in a lot of effort, if you don't put out a study, you will fail, and I'm not going to give you notes, and I will not, don't come back to me one day before exam, I will not help you, I will not do this, you have to do everything. And we feel if I tell this, they will be motivated to work. We do it with good intent, by the way. We have no bad intentions. We do it with positive, good intentions, because we think that if I go to the class and now scare them in the beginning, they will put more efforts in my subject. They will take it seriously, and they will study. They will get good marks. They will understand. So we have all their good, good at our heart. We don't do it with the wrong intent. But what happens? What happens? There are students in the class who need certainty. In the moment you crash their certainty, this subject में तो class होने की certainty नहीं है, तो पहले lecture में डरा रहा है. What happens? Whatever little interest he would have had about your subject, that also is gone. And I have done that. I have had teachers who have done it with me, and that's why I used to think. But I look back and if I look at my entire education history when I was a student, any teacher who threatened me in the first class about his or some subject being difficult and to crack, that subject never became my favorite subject. Right? So interesting, if you're doing it, and again, as I'm saying, we do it with good intention, but sometimes we don't understand how it's working. So are we giving them some kind of certainty? But then I also do that. Okay, I tell them that now. I tell them if you attend the classes at least 70-80%, if you are paying attention, if you submit your assignments on time, and if you at least even appear for the exam with some preparation, right, you will pass. I can tell. The moment you do that, they are relaxed now. And then but if you want to get good marks, if you want to do this, there are certain projects that are going to be challenging. Some of you would enjoy it, some of you may not, but again, you will have to do it. And it's up to you if you want to get good marks. So basic 40%, 50% is assured that if you do so, there's nothing that's going to stop you from passing the subject. But if you want an A+ grade, yes, there's uncertainty. There you'll have to work. So I'm both targeting the people who want certainty that they'll pass, the people who are smart people, the toppers. If you just tell them that you'll pass, they're not excited. So I'm targeting them also, I'm giving them also. If you do certain challenging stuff, some challenging projects, you'll get there. Are you giving significance to your students in the class? When a student walks and stands up and answers, do we make him feel significant? Do we make the students feel loved and connected in the classroom? Right? Are we helping them grow? Not just helping, sometimes we do help, but we don't make them realize that at the end of the semester, when I discuss, or mid-semester, I ask them, where were you when we started this subject in terms of this knowledge? Where are you today? And at least 30%, 40% will stand up and say that, okay, sir, I learned this. Just the way I did with you in the beginning, right? And when they speak up, they realize, yeah, I have grown up in terms of the knowledge in this subject. And the moment they realize that there has been a growth in my understanding of something new, suddenly their respect for the subject and you increases. Right? And are you helping them contribute back to the society in some way, right? In some subject it is possible. So how many of you now, you kind of think that this is something that is immediately helpful in your class? Quickly, let me know in the chat box. Right? And to quickly sum it up, while you guys are typing the chat box, keep your answers in the chat box, coming in the chat box. So how do we know, if you want to know, okay, am I intrapreneurial or not? Am I being entrepreneurial in my classroom as a teacher, right? So there's some points I noted down. Are you exhibiting these behaviors in your work? Are you an agent of change? When I say agent of change, are you the one who's always bringing about changes, talking about new things, changing the way classes are being taught, right? I have gone to a classroom with my t-shirt inside out, the stitches outside. I got photos, and those photos I proudly posted on my social media. Because I was teaching a class on creativity, I give them an assignment that creativity is all about getting out of fear, and there are a lot of fears. So before lunch there was a session, then after lunch there was a session. I said all the hostelers who are staying in the hostel, after lunch when you come back, you will put your clothes inside out, so that the stitching inside stitching is shown outside, the buttons are outside, and you'll come like that. And if you have fear of doing that, don't come to my class. And they did. Some of them came random. So one guy came on bunny, and I said, fine, come. They came up with mismatching socks. They put half pant on the tie. Something crazy they had to dress. They had to dress in a way so that while they're walking from hostel to the campus, anybody who sees them should laugh at them. And they have to be courageous enough to know, not be bothered about that laugh, because when as a creative person you do something new, there are people who are going to laugh at you. And that was my training to them. That their first lesson. And they came to the class. There was a girl, I got photos over there on Instagram. She wrapped a towel and came. A lot of people. Somebody put a banyan, sleeveless, and a tie, and things like that. And they came to the class and they said, sir, this is not done. I said, what happened? Sir, you asked us to do everything, but you are still dressed normally. Now, what do you do in that situation? There are 40 kids whom you are, out of 60, 20 did not come back, right? Because they were afraid. So, fine. 40 did come back and they followed my instructions. And some of them were actually laughed at. But when they came to the class, they saw me in my normal t-shirt and I was a wearing t-shirt. And they said, sir, if you are asking us to do the why don't you do also do it? Now, what do you as a teacher do? Because, of course, they are kids. Nobody's going to do anything. But if I do that, there's a director, there's the head of the department, there's so many colleagues watching me. In the moment, I said, give me 2 minutes. I went to my office. We have attached washroom in my office. I went there. All that I could do. I changed that t-shirt. I actually gathered some random stuff, put it around my body, and I got photos also. I don't have the presentation, but somewhere in my social media is there. Right? And then some other people also try starting experiments. So are we agents of change? Are we taking initiatives, right? Ownership again. So it's very important, and we all understand, so I don't want to talk about it. Building positive relationships. Are we building those? Right? Focusing on the strength of the student. Sometimes we focus too much on evaluating. It won't come class mein acha perform nahi kar raha hai. And if he's not performing good in the class, sometimes a student who's not good in the theory part does so well in the practical part. Do we look at a student who's not doing good in one subject is coming as a topper in the second subject? Are we encouraging those trends, right? Are we constant learners? I mean, we go to FDPs just for some most of the times for the sake of certificates. And when we attend the FDP, also most of the times we are doing something parallel, which is attending at the end of quiz, karenge, online to Sara is But are we really learning? I'm not saying learning this is only from FDPs, through books, through videos, whatever. Are we constantly learning? Are we sharing our success with the student? When I say share success, that does not mean posting on social media, sharing on social media. If you do something good, when I did something good with the social Facebook thing, right, I actually give credit to the student that you guys have done this, right? So am I giving equal credit to my students if you're doing something good at the end? How often we do that? If I have a happy, good lecture, if I'm happy at the end of the lecture, I actually clap for them. And I'm so thankful. We had an amazing time. You guys enjoyed. I enjoyed. Thanks to you people because you were 50, I was the only one. So if contribution wise देखा जाए तो 50 में से एक मैं आप हो तो I'm 2%, you are 49%. You are 98%, sorry, right? So your contribution is more. And we feel happy that okay, we interacted, we spoke, we answered, we created a nice environment. At the end, the teacher is leaving the classroom by thanking us. Why should they be the only ones always thanking you? Right? Co-creating, leveraging the resources, and most important, can you sell? Very, very important. My favorite teachers have been those who were able to sell their subjects on day one. We don't do that. We just go and start with the syllabus. This. We don't make them understand the importance of what we're teaching, right? So we, as I say, along with leaders, all teachers have to be good at selling. You have to be good at selling yourself. You have to be good at selling your subject. You have to be good at selling the assignment. When I give them an assignment, before I declare the assignment, I spend 10 to 15 minutes building a background. What is important in their life, or what should they learn from the industry perspective, what kind of tasks they should be doing, what kind of practical knowledge they should have. And 15 minutes, I build up everything that they understand, okay, this is what we require. And then I'm bringing the assignment, because this is the assignment and then relate it to whatever I said in the past 15 minutes, and they see, okay, this assignment is actually going to help us. We create amazing assignment, but we never tell them why we are giving the assignment. So they feel there's a burden. Try doing that. The moment you start giving them the reason behind those assignments, and how is assignment going to help them in getting better job, better internships, and in overall learning, understanding something better. Trust me, the percentage of the students who take that assignment seriously will increase. Not everybody will do. Some will still not do it properly, but the percentage will increase. Right? And then there was something I wanted to talk about, the innovation part actually. So before that, I go over there. So I think we are beyond time, but just 2 minutes I want to take. I actually wanted to spend more time. That's just contact details. If anybody wants to get in touch, feel free to contact. My LinkedIn is there, so I'm going to actually copy this and share in the chat box also. So, chat box. That is the chat box. Yeah. I'm going to quickly. Oh, sorry, I opened it over here. So I'll have to share screen from here now. It's okay. So let me just share the window. Yeah. Is it coming up? Yes, so we also spoke about innovation management. Now, innovation has two aspects: management, creating innovation, which is beyond the scope. Management is implementing. So when we bring up new innovative ideas, right? Especially those of you who are in the leadership position, heads and deans, and look at a couple of things. And this is from one of the research papers I wrote with the IT faculty when I was there doing my fellowship. This a review paper we did, but we studied the entire innovation implementation research, and we came up with the factors from the research that why do we come up with such innovative ideas? This practice, this new competition, this new software tool, or this new method of teaching. We come up with amazing ideas, but when it comes to implementing, most people do not implement it properly. And then we keep wondering people are not doing that without understanding the reasons. There are a lot of reasons. We talked about corporate innovation here, but some of the reasons apply to academics as well. I'm just quickly going to run through that paper and just read some of those reasons over it. 2 minutes. Right? So these are the factors that probably organization structure we don't want to talk about. Leadership, of course, so that's there, but I don't want to talk about that. Management support has to be there. Climate for implementation, but there are certain important aspects that I want to touch. One is knowledge diversity and knowledge sharing. Right? So unless there's a knowledge sharing, we implement. Let's say suddenly we bring in a new learning management system, Microsoft Teams, and then some people become good at it. Others are struggling, other faculty, but there's no knowledge sharing. And because of that, what happens? The faculty goes back to using Google Meet or Zoom or Google Classroom instead of Microsoft Teams because there is no proper knowledge sharing. That is one very basic, simple. But there are certain individual factors that I want to focus on. One is innovation and value fit. What this means is that we as human beings have certain value systems. Your employees, your team members, your faculty have value system in mind, right? And if the innovative product or innovative system, innovative method of teaching, learning, whatever that you're bringing, if it does not align with their value system, they're not going to use it. So if I have particularly value that the teaching is not about collecting the data and how many lectures I've done, it's more about even if I've not taken 50% of the lectures, but if I've done justice in the remaining 50%, that's what matters. And if you come up with a software that's going to track how many hours I have conducted the lecture, sorry, I'm not interested because it clashes with my value. No matter how amazing the software is, no matter how innovative the software is. Right? That's very, very important when we bring in innovation in any academic system. What is the overall, on a macro level, the value system of our faculty or staff, and make sure that we don't end up unnecessarily bringing innovative ideas that contradict their value. Right? Competency is one thing. The last point that is one point I want to mention is about the use of innovation. If the innovation that you're bringing up, any system, process, method, software that you're bringing up in the system, if it helps me do my current work in a better way, I would be happy to implement it. But if that innovation is going to create 10 new works for me, sorry, not interested. And how many times we end up bringing such innovations, right, only to later realize that people are not actually willing to adopt them, and then we feel frustrated. Itna paisa lagaya, we spend up so much of money, and people are not implementing that innovation. So that's just about the innovation management part. I just want to touch again. We could have done in a little detail, but time sometimes. Okay, so that was it from my end. I guess if we can turn the cameras on for 30 seconds, we could take a quick screenshot. And
मेरा कैमरा क्यों नहीं आना?
And just to add a point, I don't know how many of you noticed, but the way I'm sitting, the way you can look at me, you can see my laptop as well. Right? And that's what I do. So I'm not, you're not seeing me from the webcam of my laptop. There's a separate webcam that is 2 feet away. And that is why you can see my laptop also. The reason I put it over here is when I log in from the laptop, most of you it's so artificial. Because if I come to meet you in your office, I don't just see this part of you. I see you the whole as your office, right? So when I'm teaching to my students, when I put it like this now, this is more natural. If you were to come to my office right now and stand in the corner, you would see exactly like the same thing that you're seeing on the camera. This resonates more to an offline experience of meeting me than me using webcam. Cost me 2,000 rupees extra for the webcam. But every time I speak with the students, it helps me connect at the people level. They don't feel like I'm talking to somebody online. It gives them a little bit of feeling. Offline jaisa dikh raha hai. Right? Okay. So that was it. Any feedback is welcome. You're free to connect. I got your my email ID as well, my LinkedIn connect, and phone number. Anybody wants to get in touch, always welcome. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to a bunch of esteemed faculty members on topics that are very close to my heart.
Thank you so much, sir. I just wanted to ask that your setup is very impressive. So
nothing, just a webcam, nominal webcam. You'll find 1,500, 2,000 rupees online. That's it. And there's a chair, and on that chair, I'll show you how it is connected. So again, you want I'm connected from my desktop as well. So you will see the other version. If you see, that's how it is put on the chair. Right. So if you can see, I don't know whether it is visible properly or not, but if it is, yeah, that's how it is connected. So on the chair, that webcam is put over there. And I usually connect with two systems because on one system is difficult. So on one I share the screen, on the other I can see all of you.
Yes. I'm just talking about this with my colleague. The overall sitting arrangement is very impressive, and मेरा भी just ये कहना था कि ये सामने जो लगा हुआ है लैपटॉप, ये this is real or not? क्योंकि आप जो screen
it's gone. This is a real laptop. It's working. By the way, my webcam just got disconnected, so I had to go through my normal carrier also.
Okay.
In the process of showing you the laptop, I ended up throwing my webcam somewhere.
Yeah. क्योंकि मैंने आपके एक दो सेशन अटेंड किए थे DST के अंदर के वर्कशॉप्स, तो where your entry is very impressive.
Yeah, that happens if it was Zoom. See, now this is how I would look from a webcam.
Okay.
So sorry, my laptop webcam. This is the webcam I was using. I just pulled it out. So that happens in Zoom. All those filters and the caps.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like Zoom. Okay.
But you put that topi and a chadi in your hand. I've attended that workshop, that FDP.
So that is possible. Those filters are possible in Zoom only. Cool. So thank you so much. I think we can conclude.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for this very nice session. Actually, we have heard a new word, that is intrapreneurial leadership. So I think after this session, our participants, and it is very much clear for between the entrepreneurship and intrapreneurial leadership.
So just to give you the context again, not to host, but since we're talking about. So we at our SES center, we're also running a consulting assignment with one of.
थर्ड पर्सन बन के तू सुनेगी तो थर्ड पर्सन बन के आप भी सुन रही हो ना? नहीं, मैं तो कहीं ना कहीं उसकी बहन हो जाती हूँ ना.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. So anyways, I think it's almost 5 p.m. and we should close it.
Thank you so much, sir, for this nice session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.